Here now is Republican Senate candidate and hillbilly elegy author J.D. Vance. J.D., thanks for joining me. And I got to tell you what, I am so steaming mad. I did a special yesterday. One of the people that you saw, her name is Michelle. She's from Milwaukee. She's a single mom, and she's feeding her kids potatoes at night because she doesn't have enough money to buy meat. She tried to get a second job, but she can't afford the gas for, I think it was a Grubhub job. People are getting crushed out there. I know you know that. But do you think Washington, D.C. feels the pain of any of these Americans who can't navigate the finances today?
No, I don't. And if you hear the way that people talk about it, they almost sound like this suffering is virtuous. They almost encourage it. Just suffer a little bit more so that you can help other people. But at the end of the day, a lot of Americans are looking around and saying, who's helping American citizens? Who's making it easier for us to live our lives and live our dreams? The one thing I always think about this, because I know this story very personally, Sean, is people like my grandma who had to take care of grandchildren they weren't expecting. And so if you think about this from the perspective of Biden's current policies, his border policies are causing a lot of fentanyl to come into our country, which is depriving a lot of people of their sons, of their daughters. And then a lot of grandparents living on fixed incomes are picking up the slack, taking care of grandkids they weren't expecting to take care of. And Biden's economic policies are making it impossible for them to put food on the table. Just a total double whammy of bad policies that are hurting real people. And unfortunately, our leaders don't seem to care.
I had someone on yesterday. She is retired. She's like, I'm in my golden years. And I think it was Sandra. And she's like, I don't want to go back to work, but this is getting so tight for me. We thought we could retire, but I think one of us, me or my husband, is going to have to go back to work because we can't afford to live on the money that we had set aside because of inflation.
Yeah, and as policymakers, and I think a lot of people who cover this stuff in the media, they think about it in primarily financial terms. But there's also, of course, a huge human story behind the financial decisions that this terrible inflation has foisted on people. I mean, you're exactly right. A retiree who can't retire can't enjoy their golden years. Think about grandparents who are maybe expecting to spend a summer, spend a couple of months with new grandbabies that can't do it because they can't afford the travel. Think about, two-parent families where one parent has chosen to stay home. Now mom or dad has to go to work. Which the kids lose access to that full-time parent at home. There's just a lot of misery and a lot of suffering. Of course, it's terrible that people are paying more for stuff, but the human cost behind it is much, much worse. And again, it's heartbreaking and it's enraging that our leaders look at this and don't do anything about it. They're not offering any relief. They're not offering any solutions. And the Biden administration just seems to pursue the idea that this suffering should go on indefinitely. The beatings will improve or will continue until morale improves.
Right. And JD, I don't think it had to be this way. I think these are policy errors that one go back, 10, 12 years, but also the policy errors of the Biden administration. But maybe one lifeline could be, maybe people could make more money, right? And I look at the energy industry that I know you have in Ohio, West Virginia, whether it's coal or pipelines or oil. These are good paying jobs. And if we actually invested in oil, it would bring down the cost of fuel, but also would give good jobs to people so they could actually navigate the Biden inflation.
That's exactly right. And of course, energy affects everything too, right? It affects the construction industry. A lot of construction jobs lost because of our lack of energy independence. Of course, truck drivers rely on energy. But most importantly, or most directly, I should say, is the people getting this stuff out of the ground, forced out of work because of bad policies. And you have to wonder, who does this serve, right? Who benefits from it? We know a lot of Biden, Silicon Valley donors, a lot of Wall Street bankers benefit when these industries are driven out of business. But man, people on the ground, people who rely on those industries, people who need to drive to work in the day, in the morning, like most Americans, in other words, have really suffered. And you're exactly right. This was a policy choice. If we made different policy choices, if we made different priorities and set different priorities, we could solve this problem, right? We're shooting ourselves in the foot, and the whole time the President of the United States seems not to care about it.
JD, I know you're a successful guy, but you came from really, really hard upbringings. And I love that, to have elected leaders who understand the plight of people, how challenging it is. You win the Senate race. You're in the Senate. What are the first things you do to make this better for people?
Look, I think our energy and our border policies are the number one and number two things that need to get fixed because it'll make people have more money. It'll also mean less misery, less death, less drugs coming into their communities. But you're exactly right, man. I think about my grandma, and you know who really benefited from Trump's 4 years where you saw wages growing faster than the cost of goods that people had to buy? people like my grandma, people who are actually living paycheck to paycheck. What we've seen in the last 2 years is that the cost of goods has completely outran the wages that people are earning. They're getting poorer as they stand there. Even if they're working a little bit harder, even if they're trying to save, they're getting poorer just for living in this country. What a terrible lesson. What a terrible standard to set in the most prosperous and most free country in the world, that if you work hard and play by the rules, you're going to get poorer anyway. We got to turn this around, man. We got to turn it around for good people who depend on us.
JD, you're right. It's shameful. And listen, thank you for sharing your story and your insight tonight. And good luck in that Senate race.